Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Tina Williams and I do watercolor art, and today we are going to be doing a mystical magical forest. And this is, I think it's fairly an easy piece to follow. It's just going to be a little tedious. I do get frustrated with it a bit, but it definitely end up loving it. So please give it a try. I think it'll be fun. We do use a lot of blue paint, but to start with, I am wetting my paper, and as you can see a little bit of the glistening spots. Oh, the joys of living in a desert. It dries so fast. And so I am just, apologies, I'm sniffing because I have the worst allergies today. I don't know what is going on, but our monsoon started a little early, so I am dealing with allergies. I did speed this part up a little bit just because in real time it takes forever, and all I'm really doing is just, I wet the paper and I'm just doing a light blue, very thin wash over the paper. Now this is, I usually use cold press paper, and everybody keeps telling me try hard press because, or hot press, not hard press, hot press, because for the detail work I do, it works better. And so I decided to try it today, even though it's not a detailed painting. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I'm using the silver brush, which is supposed to be like the Rolls Royce of brushes. And it's the first time I'm really trying to work with it because it's just been sitting there taunting me and saying, you've got to try me out. And so new paper, new brush. I wasn't loving it because it was just too many new things happening at once. And I'm just struggling to get the wash the way I wanted to. Fortunately, most of this gets covered up. So that was part of the reason I have hiccups. Part of the reasons I wanted to give it a try. Oh my gosh, I'm just a hot mess today. Hiccups, sniffling. So part of the reason I wanted to give it a try was because I knew a lot of this wash would be covered up, and I thought this would be a great time to give it a try. And I was also thinking, you guys might be working with new stuff that you're not used to as well, especially if this is one of your first tutorials, and maybe I should feel the pain along with it. I wasn't happy. It was just not off to a good start. So I'm basically creating a horizon line here, and then I'm taking my brush and I cleaned it and I dried it, and the paint is still fairly wet, and I'm basically creating these streak lines here. It's what am I trying to say? It is an effect I'm trying to get. Oh gosh, I feel for you guys. I feel for you guys because you're following along with this and you're probably like, what is she saying? So anyways, good grief. So I'm just creating these little, I didn't want to do white there, basically. So I'm using the natural paper to create the lines of white. It's going to be a mystical forest, and it's going to be the forest ground there. And I'm just doing another layer of blue wash on here because it was just too light for me. I just wanted to go a little bit darker on here. That makes sense. And I'm really trying to blend it here, which I don't know why. It doesn't, if you're not blending it that well, don't worry about it. This really does most of it does get covered up by the forest. So don't sweat it too much like I did. Just being a bit of a perfectionist here. And I was just like, this brush is magical for a reason. I've got to be able to figure out a way to do it. So I gave up on the brush. I went back to one of my trusty brushes here. I'm using the Princeton Snap brush, and I'm basically doing the same thing I did on the pathway with those horizontal streaks. Now I'm doing vertical streaks, and those vertical streaks are trees. And good grief, my allergies are just so bad. So I'm just going to be doing a couple of these trees right down the middle, and the hydrous Dr. P.H. Martin line is really a good line for this piece just because we really want vibrant colors. I saw this originally on Pinterest. I tried to find out who the original artist was because I really wanted to give credit where credit was due, and obviously all that jazz, and it just seemed like it had been duplicated so many times by so many different people that was just one of those pieces that it's like Starry Night. It was just one of those pieces that people have been recreating, but it was always done in acrylic, which has really nice opaque vibrant colors. And I was like, you know what, I want to give it a try with watercolor. Now if you are trying to go for vibrancy, then I really like the Dr. P.H. Martin stuff. I mean, yes, I use it exclusively. It's like 99% of the paints I use. And part of the reasons I love Dr. P.H. Martin is because the colors are so vivid and bright. And if you are an acrylic artist and making a transition, it's a very easy transition to make, in my opinion, because you kind of work with it the same way. You water it down, that sort of thing, and the colors are just as bright. So I like it, and I was going to go for the really bright colors, especially towards the end. I add these little twinkle fairy type lights to the painting, and so I needed that bright color. So I did my trees. I let it dry completely. So this is the time you just step away from the painting, let it dry. As you can see, I probably could have done a little bit more with my white picked up trees in the middle there. That is not a term, but I don't know. It was taking so much longer for me to do this than I was anticipating, and I was not feeling all that great last night. I did my Pilates class, and I think I just overdid it and was just exhausted, and I was like, I didn't think this was going to be a very long project, and it just ended up being like 3 times as long as I thought it would be. So I was getting frustrated because I hadn't even started the foreground with the trees, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm doing basically taking a lighter blue, and I've sped this part up. This whole thing, I think I cut this video down into like a fourth of what it was. I sped this part up. So I'm basically just taking the blue and creating these trees, and it's going to get darker as it goes out towards the sides. The center is going to be lighter. I could probably have added more trees, but like I said, I was just really getting kind of frustrated with this thing because it was just taking so long. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I do art pieces and it's shorter than I thought it would be. Then there's other times where, like this, I'm like, oh, this looks like an easy piece. Shouldn't take me so long. 10 hours later, still working on it. Like my serial killers playing poker, totally thought that was going to be a project that took like weeks and weeks and weeks, and I finished it in a weekend. So it's like, I obviously don't know how to gauge my time very well, but this is kind of the story of my life. And do you guys ever do that? Do you ever have like a to-do list and you put the stuff on your to-do list and you're like, oh, I can get this nailed down today, and then you get like 3 things checked off out of 20? Do you guys even do to-do lists? This is my thing. I love to-do lists because I forget what I wanted to do. And I don't know, I feel like I'm still in my 20s, which I'm so not, and that I can do all this stuff without getting exhausted or hungry or needing another cup of coffee, and I just can't. So I'm just adding branches. I'm having all the branches come towards the center of the painting. And we are going for a mystical forest, so it's not going to be perfect. Well, perfect's not the right word. It's not going to be realistic. I'm wanting them all towards the center. It's created this illusion, which is what we're looking for. And as you can see, I went into my even bigger Princeton Snap brush here. It's a size 12. They're browned. And I was just doing that because I, again, was getting so frustrated with how long it was taking. I'm like, I'm just going to get my big bad boy brush and do trees with one swoop. And so that's what I did. And as you can see, it's a lot darker on the side. I went through so much blue paint on this. I think I was just kind of at this point like, God, how much more blue paint can I possibly use? In fact, I had to bring out my special pink soap to clean my brushes because there was just so much blue paint on my brushes and my water at the end of this. So just be careful. If you want to start this project and you're looking at your palette and you have very little blue left, maybe try purples. This would be cool. I mean, you could do this in any color shade. I just like blue because blue to me seems mystical. So I've sped this up even further, but this is basically the darker on the side. I wanted my tree to really, I really want a tree on the edges there. And so I wanted that to go all the way over the taped side. So now I'm doing my horizon path line. Same thing, same blues. I'm not really doing any kind of variations from this. It's really just blues and different opacities of the blue. And I'm going to create kind of a pathway. So it's going to start in the middle there, and then it's going to go a little bit to the left. So I'm going to create that naturally, and basically doing streaks across. I kind of do my oceans this way. So if you guys have seen my oceans, then it's kind of how I do my oceans as well. In fact, it kind of almost looks like an ocean at this point. So I'm going to do the blue with the pathway, and then I'm going to do I'm going to add a little bit of black to it just to give it that vibrancy. I'm really going for contrast with this painting, so you guys can see a little bit of the pathway now. I do have it go a little bit more to the left though, and so I'm just adding more blue, more blue, more blue, more blue, more blue. Blue is our friend. I don't know if I'm going to do a blue painting for a little bit after this. Speaking of which, do you guys have any special requests on paintings you want to do? So I did add, gosh, Tina, you just chopped out a whole bunch of video there. That's okay. I did add the grass as well with the blues and the blacks. So I just went up with my painting. I have no idea what happened to the video. I guess I just decided not to film that part. But you guys can kind of see, so I did the streaks, the horizontal streaks, and then I did the vertical with the grass. And so now I'm taking a very light blue wash here, and I am creating kind of a frame over the sides of the paintings and a little bit over the top. And that's just to create a little bit more of that light in the middle, and that just adds to the mysticalness of the painting. In hindsight, I probably would have done much more of a blue wash on this because I think it ended up being lighter than I wanted it to be. It still turned out really great in my opinion, but I just probably would have added a little bit more. So now I'm just doing a little bit more of the blacks on the side just to make it look like you could focus on this pathway that goes through the middle of the forest. Now if you guys remember that when I picked up the paint in the white trees to make the white trees and stuff, you guys can kind of see that in the middle there. And so it, like I said, adds to the mysticalness of it. So I'm just adding a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit on the top here as well, almost like an umbrella effect, canopy umbrella effect, and it'll just make it this, I don't know, I love the effect it does. I mean, that you can just see what I'm saying. Like, you could add more, make it even pop more. And if I was redoing this, and I thought of it after I started adding all the fairy stuff, and I say fairies, I'm not adding fairies, it's just the lights, like almost like a fairy light. But I thought of it afterwards, which was too late. So now I'm going to this is where I break the rules. So Bleedproof White, I'm taking Bleedproof White, which is a Dr. P.H. Martin product as well. It's much thicker. It sits on top of paper. It is meant to just be white that sits on top of paper. So if you're doing like highlights, like an eye sparkle type of thing, it's perfect for that. But I mix it with colors, which they say not to do. And I think I don't know why they say not to do it. I haven't figured out why. I haven't tried to figure out why, because I like using it mixed with colors, and it works for me, and I've never had an issue with it. So I'm adding these dots, and I get so kind of preoccupied with doing these. So I'm doing kind of these swirly hurricane looking dots throughout, and then I'm going to actually spray some paint on there, like the flicking of the paintbrush where you spray like little dots, which I typically don't do, especially if I'm doing galaxies. I know a lot of people do that. I don't like it because I don't feel like it's controlled enough, and I want a really controlled dots. But in this case, I was fine with it being everywhere, and I wanted really, really tiny dots. So I did do a little bit of the spray, just a little bit, and then I went through and I added the dots and the swirls and stuff manually. And I just like that effect better. I just think taking that extra time to do dots instead of spraying it just makes a much better effect. But with this, it worked much better, which is the look I was going for. I'm also adding like an aqua green color and a little bit of this very bright yellow, all of it Dr. P.H. Martin, and they all pop really well, but they don't pop without the Bleedproof White underneath it. So if you're trying to do, this is kind of where it pops. This is kind of where the acrylic effect comes in. And it's a very anti-watercolor, or not anti, but just non-watercolor effect, even though they're all watercolor. And because it's really hard to make things like this pop with just watercolor without the help of something more opaque. Now, Bleedproof White technically is watercolor. It is called watercolor. It is not the same consistency as actual watercolor, but it is called it. And the Dr. P.H. Martin watercolors, a lot of people you'll see in watercolor groups will say, the first thing they'll say is, it is not light fast. And the Hydrus line absolutely is. So unless you're actually working with this brand, I know you're not going to just know that because you don't care. So if somebody says it's not light fast, just make sure you let them know. I'm using the Hydrus line. The Hydrus line is light fast. Light fast means it won't fade in sunlight. So it is light fast, and it's sustained the time and the sun here in Arizona. So I feel like that's the ultimate test. I just went super fast on this video because I spend so much time just dotting this thing, and I didn't think that you guys would be interested in seeing me just dot the paper for 20 minutes. So this is kind of just to show you a little bit more up close what I was doing. You can see a little bit of the spray points, but I just want it a little bit more controlled. Some are white, some are yellow, some are more the aqua green, and I just think it just makes it a really cool effect. So here we are doing my favorite part, wow, my voice was really annoying right there. I'm taking the tape off, really pulling it together. Like you can see, if I had added a little bit more of that blue wash over it, I think it would have worked a little bit better, but I'm happy with it. I like the way it turned out, finally taking off the tape. But leave a comment, let me know if you did this in blue, tag me on Instagram, would love to see this regardless. Let me know what you think. If you add fairies, I think that would be fun. But tag me, and then please leave a comment. Let me know how this worked for you and if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.